So a new process with a new machine. Now with more than one way of doing a curve, and often with this kind of radius we might do that on the bandsaw, but you should be familiar at your year 10 with jigsaw here. So it's a handheld machine. Obviously you can see that the blade is sticking out proud, so the main thing we need to manage is that we're not exposing ourselves to that, or that to anything that it shouldn't be exposed to. Your work, of course, is going to need to be clamped down. So that's the first thing that we'll do, is make sure that that work is secure. Like every F-clamp, you should start with it open. You should find it open, actually. But you need to check it just in case it hasn't been stored as well as it could have. Now with the clamping, I'm going to make sure that I clamp a fair distance away from where I'm cutting, because I would like to cut in one circuit, and I don't want the machine bed to be interfered with by this. I also don't want the clamp handle in the way of the blade, and I don't want anything in the way of my cut either. So you'll see that I've pulled the work off the edge of the bench. Now in particular where you're clamping near the vices, you need to make sure that you're well away. Safety wise, it is a goggles and an earmuffs machine, so we'll have those here and ready. And then really the key to operating this is it needs to be sitting vertical. As you can imagine, if you're halfway through a cut and you bend it, this blade is bouncing up and down fairly quickly like that, and we've got a ripping blade in it here. Then we don't want to bend that blade. That's probably the worst thing you can do. How do you avoid that? Well, we use this foot that's on the machine. It operates a bit like a machine bed. Instead of having your work down on the bed, you have the bed or the foot of the machine safely down on the work. So we don't want it perched and wiggling around like this. We want it sitting level. Now there's two ways you can operate with guidance on here. There is a little V there that I could sit on my line knowing that's where the blade is going to be, but we can actually see through the clear guard here, and we can see where the blade is as well. Do we want to cut exactly on the line? No. Do we want to cut so far away from the line we've got loads of sanding? No. So I'm going to sit not exactly on my ordinate where I want to start. I'm going to sit possibly about 1 millimetre off, and 1 millimetre will be the blade thickness. So I want this edge of the blade sitting on this edge of the line. Okay, and while you're learning, you can come a little bit farther away. It needs to be running before you touch the work. So we do not start it, hold the blade against the wood and turn it on. Okay, and there is a lock on the side of this machine, so the on switch is this trigger here. You can tell it's going to be a loud process. And if I squeeze the trigger and push that button, that will hold the trigger on for me. To turn it off again, I just trigger it a second time. So if I pull and press, this hand can worry about guiding. I'll have a go. So I'm going to turn it on. The other thing I'm watching is the power cable, so I want to keep that out of the way. Occasionally, you might find there's a need for hooking it back around yourself, then it won't get in the way. In this case, I can see if I leave it behind the F-clamp, it's not going to be able to fall underneath the blade. Okay, so I'm turning it on, letting it run, and then doing a smooth cut. Not especially rushing, but I'm not going so slow it burns the wood. And you can see as you finish there that I've cut myself all the way out of the wood, and then I held the machine there while it finished cutting. Obviously I can just lie it down and unplug it. I'm hoping that you can see the amount of dust that this job creates, and that you will make sure that you're running the air extraction and wearing a mask as needed.